So in today's exercise, we train adjustability in your horse's canter stride through a related distance. We don't always get the jump into the related distance perfect, and we sometimes need to step up the canter or compress the canter to get the related distance to ride well. Your horse may not always be obedient or switched on to this, so it's always good to practice this from time to time. The warm-up routine will provide a little practice doing a tight turn to a related distance and a tight turn after a related distance. Both quite tricky and need to be trained. And then there's a nice track to finish it off with. Okay, so there are only 6 jumps in this exercise, but there are quite a few cavalettis, so it's a bit of a tight squeeze. So the best way to do this setup is to lay the poles out first and make sure everything fits nicely and then build the jumps. Also, if you don't have any cavalettis, poles on the ground will work just as well. So I think the best way to build this is to start from top to bottom. So we start off with the oxer, 5 short strides to the cavaletti on the top long side of your arena. So you set up the line a little off center and slightly more to this side of your arena. So from the oxer to the cavaletti is where you train shortening your horse's stride. So it's 5 strides, and the standard jump to cavaletti would walk 23 paces. But we're making it 2 paces short, so it walks 21 paces for the short 5 strides. Next, set up this vertical on a related distance to the oxer you've just set up. It rides down on 7 strides on the curve, and it walks the standard 32 paces for the 7 strides. If you have a small arena, you can take a stride off that and build it on 6 strides. That'll walk 28 paces. Next, you build this 2-stride double combination diagonally across your arena. It's a vertical to an oxer, and it walks the standard 12 paces for the 2 strides. Don't forget to position it so it doesn't interfere with this related distance. Then you set up these 3 cavalettis, which will make up the warm-up routine. Once again, if you don't have cavalettis, poles on the ground will work just as well. Make sure you can ride them on a route similar to this. The little related distance rides down on 4 strides, so it walks 18 paces for the 4 strides. Next, you build this related distance on a curve, vertical to oxer, and it rides down on 7 strides on the curve. So it walks the standard 32 paces for the 7 strides. And finally, you set up this cavaletti 5 long strides away from this vertical. This is the part of the exercise where you train to lengthen your horse's stride through a related distance. So because it rides long, it walks an extra 2 paces, so it walks 25 paces for the 5 strides. That's it, you're all set up and ready to go. Don't forget the link to the JPEG of the course plan in the description below, so it's easier to build off your phone. So now for the warm-up routine. So this type of cavaletti drill is really great to train you and your horse to handle tricky situations while jumping. It's very forgiving, but when you're doing it well, it carries through to your jumping and really does serve you well. So we'll start off with a tight turn to the related distance. Doing a tight turn has the tendency to kill your canter a bit, which will make the related distance ride long. So firstly, try keep moving forward through the turn so you have a better chance of getting a forward ride to the related distance, and prevent it from riding too long. However, if you don't get that ride, be sure to pick up your pace through the related distance so you can comfortably get the 4 strides. Now the tight turn to a cavaletti after a related distance. So you'll be carrying some pace after the related distance, so you'll need to practice getting your horse balanced and back to a nice controlled pace so you don't overshoot the turn and have enough control to find a good takeoff spot at the cavaletti. Once again, this will carry through to your show jumping, so spend as much time as you can doing this drill, even on your flat work days. Okay, so this part of the exercise is where you train your horse to lengthen and shorten its stride through a related distance. There's several reasons why you may need to shorten or lengthen your horse's stride through a related distance. We don't really need to cover those now, but know that it's super important to be able to do. So we'll start off with the long 5 strides from the vertical to the cavaletti. Do it a few times small just to warm up. Remember that it will ride a little longer when it's small because you'll land closer to the jump when it's small. Then put it up. The first few times you may need to just gauge how much you need to ride forward to get the 5 strides. That'll depend on how long your horse's stride is. Make sure you land and have a laser focus on the cavaletti to judge how much more or less you need to ride for the 5 strides. This may really fire up a hot horse, so don't do too much of this exercise if you're on a hot horse. However, it's still something you need to be able to do. Now the short 5 strides. Again, do it once or twice smaller, then move on to your normal jumping height. So you'll need to sit up early to make sure you don't fall onto your horse's neck when you land, and then get the work done early. It's always better to get your horse to do a big collection early, once or twice even, so you can leave it to canter freely the last 1 or 2 strides. You don't want to still be trying to shorten its stride at the cavaletti. This is usually slightly more difficult than lengthening its stride, so you can set aside a session or 2 to get this working well for you. And this is how you ride the whole track. Remember, you don't have to do part 1 and part 2 on the same day. You can do part 1 on one day and part 2 on another day. How you do it is entirely up to you. So there's nothing super technical about this track. I found that it rode really well. However, if I have to be super critical, I found that I lost a little bit of my canter around this turn, and I had a slightly quiet ride to the oxer, which made the line ride a little long. What made it slightly worse was that I'd done this line to the cavaletti a few times before, so my horse thought she was going straight and I missed my line a little, and that made the line ride a little long. So be aware of those two things and you should be fine. Awesome, you made it to the end. So you're the type of person that will really enjoy this channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and I'll keep the videos coming.